I want to talk to you about 14 investment banking skills which you're absolutely going to need if you have ambitions to become an investment banker. So, you want to become an investment banker? Well, I can understand that. I did this for 30 years. I absolutely loved the job. I ended up running my own firm, and I have spent yonks of time talking to junior people, interviewing people, and indeed training people as they've come through my hands, both when I was working in major investment banks and in my own firm. But this does mean that you are going to have to do some homework. You are going to have to get yourself prepared for the interviews that are going to be coming up. Now, this video is not about interview technique, but it's about the core preparation you're going to need to do, because these are the sorts of skills that you are going to be tested on and questioned about. So you need to have done your preparation and homework thoroughly. Now, the main areas are in three groups, and I'm going to explain those in a minute. And within those three groups, there are 14 topics. Don't be put off by that. There's a lot to cover. The three main areas are institutional awareness. I'll explain what this means in a minute. Core investment banking skills and technical skills. So by institutional awareness, what I mean is that whoever you are being interviewed by, you need to do your homework on that firm. You need to understand the organizational structure of the organization. You need to understand the responsibilities and the key personnel within the firm. You know, what areas of investment banking does this firm do its business in? And if you can find out who you're going to be interviewed by, or some of the key people in the investment banking department you want to be in, then definitely do your homework on who they are. Now, this means you need to go onto the firm's website and really go through it with a fine tooth comb. Do your research. And if you're going to research the firm, it's probably a good thing to do it the day before you do your interview, so it's all still fresh in your mind. Make sure you are familiar with that firm's transaction record. They will ask you, what sort of deals do you think we've been doing? And you need to have a view on what the deal was, the price, the value, the parties involved, whether it was a good deal, a bad deal, successful, the strategy behind it, these sorts of questions. Make sure you check out thoroughly the people who you are going to be coming up against, and definitely use LinkedIn for this. And if you can find out who you're being interviewed by, then research their profiles. Now let's turn to the core investment banking skills. These are the areas you are going to be expected to have some knowledge about. I've put them into the categories you can see here, but you really need to go and learn what these are and how they work. So we're talking about startups, venture capital, private equity, LBOs, which are leveraged buyouts, mergers and acquisitions, and IPOs. You need to demonstrate an understanding of these core business areas. So with startups, now there's a lot to cover, but I'm just going to throw out some thoughts for you here. Now, at the end of this course, I will steer you towards somewhere where you're going to be able to find out a lot more about all these topics at a very affordable and accessible price. And you need to stick around till the end so that you don't miss out on that. So what makes a good startup? I mean, you know, if you're looking at it from an investment banking point of view, somebody comes to you and they say they want you to help raise some money for them, you need to be able to assess that. What are their capital raising options? Do they go to angel investors, venture capitalists, or maybe even bootstrap? What's the market opportunity? Is the business scalable? You need to be able to understand what goes into the preparation of a business plan, its structure, and its core contents. What are the essentials of the financial plan that underlie this business? Of course, you need to understand valuation and investment, how this business is valued and how the investment is going to be made into the firm and how it's going to be structured. Pitching a startup to an investor is a critical skill, because you need to coach your clients on how they need to do this. So you have to have that knowledge. And of course, you need to understand the investment process for a startup and the return expectations. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail which you can learn about in advance. You do not have to go into this blind. When it comes to venture capitalists, well, who are venture capitalists? What do they look for in an investment? What size of investment? What stage is the business at? Which sectors do they like investing in? What are their return expectations? What stages of investment do they invest in? Seed, Series A, B, C, etc. What are the benefits and risks of VC investment for a firm? I mean, the benefits, obviously, they raise money and capital, but you're bringing in a bunch of people who are going to be involved in your business and who are going to sit on your board and who will have quite a lot of influence over that business and over your future. So it's not to be taken lightly, not to be taken without going in with your eyes open. What is the venture capital investment process? How does your client pitch to venture capitalists? What are term sheets and what are the key terms inside a term sheet? One critical area, which is sometimes overlooked but is very, very important to your client's future financial well-being, is how does the option pool work? So you need to understand that. And a technical area which is easily overlooked but can be absolutely critical are liquidation preferences. So you need to get your mind around what they are. When it comes to private equity, well, I suppose the first question is, what's the difference between a venture capitalist and a private equity house? Essentially, they are doing different types of deals, although they are both financial investors. Do you know what a leveraged buyout is? What does that mean? Well, leverage means using debt to increase the returns on a transaction. But you need to understand how that works and what is meant by that. How do PE firms make their money? I mean, what's the key essence of their business model? They basically get a 2% management fee, and then they get a 20% carry above a certain return. Well, that's important that you have the detail of that. What are the characteristics of a good target firm? So what sorts of firms are they looking for? And a big hint here is lots of cash flow often helps. So they tend to be more mature businesses. How do they go about structuring their deals? You need to understand that. What is the private equity deal process? It is similar to venture capital, but it does have some nuances and some differences. Do you know what is meant by due diligence? This is the process of checking out that everything is right in the target firm that you want to invest in, but it's a very long and complex process and has lots of different segments. You need to get your mind around that. How do you value a private equity deal? How do private equity firms value their deals? And here's a quick hint around that. What is meant by EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization? And why do private equity firms use this metric so often? When it comes to leverage buyouts, this is a form of private equity transaction, but it is a principal structure which is used time and time again. So you need to have the detailed understanding of how these structures work. You need to understand the complexities of them. And part of that is actually how they are modeled, the inputs, the calculations and the outputs. LBO models are a law unto themselves, and they can become incredibly complicated. I've seen some which run to 30 or 40 pages, and I've seen some which are basically on one sheet in an Excel spreadsheet. So there's a lot of complexity and subtlety in that. How complex should your model be is a key issue. How does the valuation work in an LBO model? Do you understand what is meant by discounted cash flow? What is the capital asset pricing model? And what is the weighted average cost of capital? This is all under the heading of modern portfolio theory, but you need to have this understanding. When it comes to IPOs, now, I haven't done IPOs since the late 1980s, where I floated quite a number of companies as a junior on the London Stock Exchange. But you need to understand, why do firms go public? Why do they list their shares publicly? And who does this help in terms of the shareholders, the management, and the people who buy the shares? What is the IPO process? What's the role of the investment bank within the IPO process? What happens at a roadshow and how do you pitch investors? What is a book building process and how are IPOs priced? And then what's the process of actually launching the IPO, allocating the stock, and any issues which may come up afterwards? When it comes to technical skills, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the sort of thing that you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis. So you need to have an understanding of accounting and finance, of financial analysis, of financial modeling, of company valuation, of presentations, and to a lesser extent, but I don't want to leave this out, negotiation. As an analyst, you will be expected to have these basic skills. So under the heading of accounting and finance, you may not be an accountant, but you must be financially literate. You must be able to read a 10K statement and understand what's in it and what's being said to you. In the UK, that would be a set of report and accounts. When I first joined my first firm, Hall Gavett, back in 1988, as a graduate trainee, I couldn't read an income statement. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. I'd never read a report and accounts, which is a failing of mine. That's the first thing they made me learn. They put me to work with a research analyst, and she really made me gen up on all these things and educated me as to what these were about. But you can do this before you go to the interview. You need to understand the key accounting principles and what's involved in GAAP, and it's GAAP, the generally accepted accounting principles. Accrual accounting is a part of accounting, and it's basically where you match the timing of transactions, and you have to understand how accrual works, because most accounts are written using accrual accounting and not using cash accounting. And then finally, of course, you need to have a good understanding of the key financial statements, the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. When it comes to financial analysis, you need to be able to interpret what you're reading. What are the numbers telling you? And of course, this means particularly that you need to be able to apply ratio analysis and understand the different types of ratio analysis, profitability, liquidity, solvency, and valuation that you can undertake using ratios. Financial modeling we've touched upon already, but whether you're doing a simple valuation or you're doing a complex LBO model, you at least must be able to build a basic financial model, which means you need to understand the structural components of them, and you need to understand and be able to use Excel. This means you need to understand formulas within Excel. You need to know what nested statements are. You need particularly to understand what circularity is and why it's so bad, and how you go about linking up different cells and different spreadsheets. Again, I'm not trying to give you a financial modeling course in this. I'm trying to open your mind to the sorts of areas you need to be educating yourself about. When it comes to valuation, well, is this an art or a science? It's very, very subjective. To start with, you must understand modern portfolio theory, the capital asset pricing model, and the weighted average cost of capital, just for starters. You need to be able to build a discounted cash flow model and understand what that means, and understand what is meant by present value and how the discounting works. You should really be able to calculate the intrinsic value of a business and know what that means. A big hint here, if you are not familiar with this, then go and read everything you can get your hands on about Warren Buffett. And of course, valuation ratios are important, the price earning ratio and the PEG ratio, the price earnings to growth ratio. Just two simple examples of how you can use ratios for valuation. When it comes to presentations, the starting point is understanding how to use PowerPoint. I use Keynote on a Mac, but it's the same thing. Now, the style and the design, funnily enough, are less important because you will be given corporate templates. There will be a corporate style which you'll be expected to adhere to. But you do need to understand the key components of an investment banking presentation, why they're there and how you'd put them together. So you need to be able to explain the merits of a transaction, who the potential buyers might be, what the pricing of the deal is and how you come to the valuation, what the key risks are, what the timetable is, and normally there's a section about credentials and track record of the firm. So that's just a quick outline. There are other types of presentations you'll be expected to give, but the basic pitch book presentation, which I've just outlined to you there, is probably the most important starting point, and that's what you'll probably spend most of your time preparing, literally week in, week out, and weekend in and weekend out. Now, when it comes to negotiation, This is not a skill that you'll be expected to use straight away because you'll be relatively junior. Your more senior colleagues will be doing the negotiation. But I strongly encourage you to start learning about negotiation techniques and how negotiation works, because it's like a game of chess, and chess has its rules as well. And you need to know how to make the moves in a negotiation and why people are doing what they're doing. Of course, watch and learn from your more experienced colleagues, from more experienced bankers. If you can, quiz them afterwards about the value, the negotiation strategy, why they're doing, what they're expecting the other side to do. Always pay attention to what the other side says and does, and ask yourself why they're doing it, what they want to achieve. So negotiation is something which you'll need to have as you get more senior, but you need to learn it from the get-go, and really from the first start. Now, I've covered a lot of ground in this video because I'm trying to open your mind to the sorts of areas you need to be able to study. Now, to discover more about many of these topics, you can go to my 6-Minute Strategist Academy, where you can enroll on a monthly basis at a very affordable price. You can cancel at any time. There are no penalties. Now, I've got 30 years investment banking experience, and I'm creating these courses all the time. You will find at least 14 investment banking courses which you can take there, but there are also a whole lot more things you can learn about in the 42 courses which are currently listed on my academy. So if you're ready to invest in yourself, if you're ready to take action, if you're ready to really be determined to get that investment banking job, click on the link below and go and discover more about how you can get up to speed with many of the skills and the issues we've covered in this video. So that's 14 investment banking essential skills. Even if you don't go to my academy, make sure you write these down and start systematically getting up to speed in as many of these areas as you can, because this is the core underpinning of the knowledge you will be expected to demonstrate when you go for that important investment banking interview for that job that you are so desperate to get. The very best of luck.